So, welcome to How to Live in Love. My name is Alexander Bell. And this talk is called God is Not a Belief System. And let me explain my relationship with God and how I've come to know that God is a reality, not a belief system, but a reality. A bit like a fish or a group of fish in the ocean, and one fish comes up to the others and say, hey, guess what? There's this thing called water, and it sustains us, it gives us life, it gives us energy, and we're surrounded by it. It's everywhere. And these fish are like, sorry, I just can't see it. I can't see any water. You know, they can see all the other fish, and they can see all the particles and the dirt and all the things floating in the water, just like we can see all the things in the world. But the water itself, no, they're not convinced, because when you live in something, when you're immersed in a reality that essentially is spiritual, so like water is clear and you can't see through it. Water is clear and you can't see it because you can just see through it. So when you're immersed in a reality which is spiritual, and your focus is on the material, which is the case for, I would say, 99% of human population, our focus is on the material. So we look at things, we look at objects, we look at views, and we look at space. When I say space, I mean the relationship between objects. We're measuring everything in terms of space. And our spiritual vision is closed down because we're not feeding it, we're not using it. And there's this phrase, if you don't use it, you lose it. Like if you don't use a muscle, for example, the muscle becomes weak and essentially it becomes useless. So our spiritual vision is what enables us to see God. As I said, God is a reality. And I can tell you this with authority because I've been meditating since the age of 18 and I'm now 42 years old. And I reawoke my spiritual vision in my early 20s through some intense meditation experiences and detoxing and fasting and cleansing and lots of healing practices. And I reawoke my spiritual vision. And I came to realize that there was this spiritual reality. And essentially, I'm surrounded by what the fish would call water. I am surrounded by this force of energy. Intelligence. It's not just a force of energy, but it's intelligence. It's loving, conscious intelligence. And I am surrounded by it. And this is what God is. God is the loving, conscious intelligence which surrounds you, which is inside you. It permeates you. It knows what you're thinking, it knows what you're feeling, it knows everything because it's everywhere. You're almost like you're just occurring within God. So of course God knows everything about you because you're within it. You're, like the water permeates the fish, it flows through its gills. God flows through our heart, it flows through our mind, it flows through everything. And this is very real. This isn't just a belief system. In fact, this isn't a belief system at all. This is a tangible, observable, perceivable reality, the presence of God. And as I said, nothing has persuaded me to believe this. No person, no book, no belief system, no religion. 24 years of meditation. And in fact, it didn't even take 24 years, in my early 20s. It became very obvious that there was this divine intelligence everywhere, surrounding me, in my mind, knew everything, and that, and I was deluding myself. I was hiding away from this force because I was scared of it. I was trying to convince myself that my thoughts are private, trying to convince myself that this force couldn't see me, didn't know what I was doing, that I could hide and I could, it's like a child who closes his eyes and thinks nobody can see him because he can't see them, And so it's true that many people actually don't want to open their eyes, like the fish doesn't want to recognize that it's in this giant ocean of water. We don't want to open our eyes because it means that we'll realize that we are being seen all the time, that God is seeing us all the time. God is aware of us all the time. And we think, and this is all subconscious, we think that if God really sees who we are, if we really are being seen, if all our thoughts are being seen, and all our actions are being seen, then God will judge us as sinners, that God will judge us as being failures or being bad, and that of course, and this is another subconscious belief system, after judging us, he'll punish us, because we're brought up and we're deeply conditioned to believe that with judgment comes punishment. We judge if something's bad, it's punished. This is a judgment punishment mentality which we're all conditioned with in our society. So we believe that God will judge us. We believe that God will judge us as bad and thus punish us. So we don't want to be seen. We don't want our thoughts to be seen. We don't want to see our actions to be seen. We don't want our actions to be seen. We want to be able to be anonymous, incognito. Like you see all these web browsers now and YouTube and blah, 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 when you can go incognito and you can do things, you can look at things that you don't want other people to know you've been looking at. And I really think this is terrible. It's terrible that we want to think that if nobody can see it, then it's okay. Nobody knows what we're doing online, then it's okay. We can get away with stuff. And that's how humanity thinks, how humanity operates in general. If God can't see us, then we can get away with it. But the fact is, God is not judging us as bad. He's with us all the time. And he's trying to steer us back towards him. He's trying to say, hey, look, I'm a reality. I love you. I'm right here. I'm here to help you. I'm here to give you everything your heart desires. And I'm not talking about material things. I'm talking about the spiritual things that you need. The peace, the love, the freedom in your heart. God's saying, look, come back to me and you'll have all these things. But some part of us is in resistance because we're afraid. We're afraid of God. Everyone's afraid of God. This idea of this all-powerful, almighty force that can literally destroy us. That we understand, we realise that this power is so great that it's, a bat of an eyelid, a bat of God's eyelid can just wipe us out. But that's not who God is. God isn't interested in wiping us out. God isn't interested in punishing us. He's interested in healing us. And this is why it's really important to open your spiritual eyes and take the hints that God is giving you all day long, every day. Take the hints. He's trying to steer you back to trusting him, to realizing or noticing his presence, noticing how he's directing things in your life. He's trying to heal us so that we can be with him. He wants us to help our hearts to heal. He wants to allow us to heal. He wants to help us heal our heart. Because a healed heart is a heart which is open to God. It's like the gills of a fish. Imagine if a fish closed its gills. Then it couldn't breathe, it wouldn't survive. And this is what we've done. Our hearts are closed to a great degree. We're just alive, where, they're open enough for us to feel alive, for us to keep going on, for us to get up every morning and find a reason to get ourselves dressed and take care of ourselves and be civil with the people around us. Our hearts are open enough. But because they're not fully open, then we're not really feeling the power and the life that the water wants to bring through us, through our gills. That just like a fish, the water energizes and enlivens the fish. And when our heart is open, then the energy of God flows through it, like the water flows through the gills. And we feel inspired, we feel enlivened, we feel open, we feel enthusiastic, and we feel protected. Because when we know God is a reality, when we perceive God's reality, which we can all do, by the way, without engaging in a belief system, we can all perceive God's reality if we take the right steps. If we're willing to be fully open, that's essential, by the way, willing to be fully open, we can all perceive God's reality without exception. And then we find what we've been looking for. We find the things we've been missing in our life. That sense of security, deep security in the core of our heart, a sense of faith, a sense of trust, a sense of peace,